Hi guys, James back with another video, and this was one. I had been working on a few lists, and then I started sort of collecting movie titles, collecting movies for, and just making a general list. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was trying to, because I didn't have enough to fit them into other lists. Or I did, and I just didn't feel confident about the list in general. But I had a list of movies that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to do just another, these are 10 movies you've likely never heard of, or another 10 movies that I want to talk about. Although I could have, but I didn't. But after I did find a common denominator with the majority of the movies on the list. And so I eliminated a few and I whittled it down to 10. And if you've clicked on the link, then you know that this is the top 10 Google Play movies. Now, what that means essentially is for under one classification or another, whether it was just, essentially it's top 10 movies that I discovered through Google Play. Because that's the streaming service I use the most, I suppose, via my phone or YouTube on my TVs. And they're just ones that I discovered through Google Play just by scrolling through. Oh, this sounds interesting. It's on sale, so I'll pick that up. And there's ones that were made a few years ago and went to festivals, but didn't debut until this year. So there's several that are from this year. There's ones that I'd heard about before and then forgot about, and I just checked them out on Google, found out that they were on Google Play, and I watched them, loved them. That's why they're on this list. And yeah, essentially that was it took me like a few weeks to find a common thread between all 10 of the movies, and that's essentially what it is. Well, I'll just call it that then. It'll be a first time for that list. And I suppose you could do other ones for all the other streaming services, but this is the one that was at the top of my mind. So, without further ado, we will start with number 10. Number 10 is a film from 2014 called Faults. And this one stars Leland Orser and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. And you also have Chris Ellis and John Grease, Lance Reddick, and Beth Grant as primarily all the actors that you'd recognize in the movie. And you've got Leland Orser playing Ansel Roth, who is he's sort of self-professed authority on cults and cult figures, and he's written a couple books, and he's been involved before with where they kidnap someone from a cult whose family has lost them to the cult and they want them back, so they kidnap them, take them to a motel room and keep them there and try to deprogram them, bring them out of the cult mindset and back to normal, to reunite them with their families. And he's on his book tour, and he gets sort of assaulted by a guest in the audience who was a relative of a girl who he brought out of a cult who ended up killing herself. And he owes money to his publisher, who sends like a thug to threaten him, and he gets approached by this older couple who claim that their daughter is part of this cult. You find out this later. This cult is called Faults, and they want him to rescue her from the cult and basically deprogram her, bring her back to normal. And so he hires a couple of guys, and they do. And this is Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She she plays Claire, and it's sort of he's in over his head once he gets her in the motel room, and he's trying to communicate with her and try and break through the wall she's put up. That her belief in this cult is so strong, like nothing's getting through. But she sort of turns the tables on him. And it's a very interesting dynamic that Leland Orser and Mary Elizabeth Winstead have in this movie, the back and forth they have. And I won't go too far into it. It's just, it's funny how much you see that he's met his match, and at sometimes he's sort of outmatched by this girl. So I will stop there. So that is false. Number 9, we have a film made in 2016, traveled the festival circuit, and came out this year in 2021. And it is called To Whom It May Concern. And this one stars primarily Don Olivieri and Wilmer Valderrama from That 70s Show. Don Olivieri has been in several things here and there. And she plays Anna. Wilmer Valderrama plays Sam. So Anna, she works in a bar. She's a bartender, and she's sort of living a self-destructive life. And it's made clear very early on that she is on a self-destructive path, and she does plan to kill herself. She's making all the arrangements. She's written like a suicide letter and stuff. And you don't know when this is going to happen, just that it's likely going to happen soon. She's pretty much hit the wall, and she's at the end of her rope. And Wilmer Valderrama, who plays Sam, lives with his girlfriend Rachel next door down the hall in their apartment building. And like she always sees him, and she has kind of an infatuation with him. And he gets kicked out by his girlfriend at some point, and she takes him in. So invites him in, you can sleep on my couch. She's trying to do something nice for him. But she also kind of likes him. And they get to know each other and become close while his girlfriend is still living in an apartment and secretly cheating on him. Though they've kind of broke up, kind of not. And it's sort of he does his best to, without knowing what she plans to do, it's sort of bringing her back off the brink for a time. I'm not going to say where things lead, but it is a very I'm going to say a very sweet story, a very sweet dynamic that the two of them have. It's sort of like two kind of lost souls that find each other, essentially. So, that is To Whom It May Concern. All right, number 8, we have a film from 2019 made in 2019 from 2019, sorry. I just found out about it this year. And it's called Guest of Honor. And it's one of the latest films by Adam McGoyan. And I had just been scrolling through Google Play and saw the title, and it's like, Guest of Honor, stars David Thewlis. And I looked at it and said Adam McGoyan. I was like, oh my god, I love Adam McGoyan. Like, I had at least 3 movies of his on my first top 10 Canadian films list. And that, like, 2 of his were right at number 1 and 2. And I try to keep track of what my favorite directors are doing, but sometimes I'm looking the wrong way and like, oh, look, they've made another movie. And this one he made a couple years ago. And so I watched this one, and this one sort of jumps back and forth in time. Because you've got David Thewlis he's a health inspector goes around to restaurants around town. And you also have the only two people I really recognize now. You got David Thewlis plays Jim, and you have Luke Wilson playing Father Greg. And a lot of the other actors I had never seen before, with the exception of you have Rossif Sutherland from Hyena Road. And in a very tiny role, you have, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, Arsene Kanjian. It's Adam McGowan's wife, who has a role in virtually all his movies in either small or large part. She has a kind of small role in it. Anyway, it jumps around in time because you've got the movie starting with David Thewlis' daughter, played by Leila de Oliveira. And yeah, she plays Veronica, and she is speaking with Luke Wilson, who's the pastor of the local church, about her father's passing and what he wants to know, if there's anything she can tell him about so that he can say for his eulogy. And it jumps back to her being in prison and David Thewlis, her father, visiting her, and even before that with her being a music teacher and her dealing with her students, and Rossif Sutherland, who plays the bus driver who drives the students around to perform at different locations. And what happened is she ends up going to prison, being suspected of or convicted of like inappropriate relations with her students, abuse or whatever. And it may or may not be true, but you get the sense that she knows it's not true, but she insists on staying in prison, and you don't know why. And there is one thing she says, it's, I belong in prison, not for what I'm accused of doing, but for what I actually did. And there was something in her past that she did that she feels guilty enough. A few things in her past that she feels guilty enough that she belongs in prison. And her father doesn't understand because she won't tell him. She just feels that she belongs there. And so you have a journey where the father finds out the truth about his daughter prior to his death, and then after his death, the daughter finds out the truth about her father, because he also may have had relations with her. Like when she was a child, she had a music teacher that he would bring her to, and his wife was dying of cancer, and she believes that he had an inappropriate relationship with the music teacher. But she was young, and her memories may not be exactly what she thinks they are. Now, I'm giving you a lot of information, and it's just little pieces that are meant to intrigue you about the movie, and because they intrigued me. And as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I want to know where this goes, because it keeps jumping back and forth, and I'm following it, but you're waiting for like answers to all the questions it's raising. And I think it was a very, very well done Adam McGowan movie, as most of his are. That was Guest of Honor. Number 7, we have a film from this year, 2021, called Happily. And this one stars, you got Carrie Bechet, Joel McHale, Natalie Zaya, Paul Scheer, let me see, Stephen Root, John Daly, Shannon Woodward, Charlene Yee. Breckin Meyer is in there in a smaller role. But essentially you've got Carrie Bechet and Joel McHale, who've been married for several years. And their friends, apparently all hate them because they never argue. They've been married for several years, they never argue, they're still in love, they have sex all the time, and they act like two people who have just met and are madly in love with each other. And it bugs the hell out of everyone how they can't believe that these people are this happy and in love still. And because they're all married and in relationships, and they have regular relationship problems, and they argue and stuff like that, and this couple doesn't. And enter Stephen Root, who shows up out of the blue in like black and white suit, and he has this briefcase, and he wants to talk to them, and he tells them that every once in a while there's an anomaly presents itself, and he's implying that they are this anomaly, and their relationship is unnatural. They're supposed to fight and argue like everyone else. And he presents it with like two syringes with injections. So you take the injection, and then very shortly thereafter, you'll be normal just like everyone else. And they don't want that. They like what they have and what they mean to each other. And so they eventually, well, you see in the preview that Joel McHale leaves to go to the kitchen to get a drink of water, and Stephen Root keeps talking. Carrie Bichet gets up and cracks him over the head and kills him. And they wonder what they're going to do. Well, they ditch the body, and then they end up being invited to a retreat, a couple's retreat, with their friends. And it's sort of all the truths and secrets are going to come out between all of these couples, all these so-called friends. And I'll stop there because it is very funny. It's a dark comedy, but it is very funny. Mainly because of Carrie Bichet and Joel McHale. But the other couples have their own funny moments in there. And Stephen Root, who plays it completely straight, he's only in a handful of scenes, I think. But he does a good, I guess, borderline creepy job. So that was Happily. Number 6, we have a film from this year, 2021, called My True Fairytale. And this was one I just found scrolling through Google Play, and it sounded interesting. And it, let me see, the people you'd recognize in it likely are, let me see, Joanna Cassidy, Bruce Davison, and Taylor Cole, and Corin Nemec. Corin Nemec was the guy, I always think back to, he was the star of Parker Lewis Can't Lose, that Ferris Bueller-esque TV show back in the 90s. Anyway, you have, the central figure in the movie is this character named Angie Goodwin, played by Emma Kennedy. And the writer-director based this on his... Sorry, it stopped on me. The writer-director based this on his own daughter's life and death. His daughter had died in a car accident, I believe, when she was 17. And so he wrote this movie sort of inspired by her. And so you've got his daughter, let me see, sorry. Played by Emma Kennedy, plays Angie Goodwin, and she's in a car with two of her friends, and there's an accident. It goes off the bridge, and when they find them, they find her two friends, and they get taken to the hospital, but they don't find her. Her body's nowhere to be found, so they don't know if she's alive, dead. Right now, she's just missing, and she shows up across the country in her estranged father's apartment. And she wants to get to know him and is determined to fix his life because he's not doing what he wants to do. He's not committing to the girl he's involved with. And he's also kind of estranged from his own parents, her grandparents that she's living with, and that's Joanna Cassidy and Bruce Davison. And so throughout the movie, she's sort of trying to fix his life, and then from a distance, sort of trying to reach out to her friends and family and sort of make contact. It's hard to describe without spoiling it, and I'm not going to spoil it, but long story short, the first half of the movie I didn't think was going very well. But to use the analogy, I think this movie stuck the landing, because the first half was just basically a setup for a great second half. And it brought it back around, brought me back around to loving the movie. And it's a very sweet, emotional story once you get into it. And really, really does the memory of his daughter justice, I guess, if that was his intention. So, that was my True Fairytale. So, moving on to number 5, we have a film from 2015, sort of a horror comedy horror called Bloodsucking Bastards. And this is sort of a vampire comedy in that you have Fran Kranz, Joey Kern, Emma Fitzpatrick, Pedro Pascal, and Fran Kranz is mainly the main actor in the movie, and he works in an office with Joey Kern and Emma Fitzpatrick. And Emma Fitzpatrick is his girlfriend, who he's recently had a very bad situation with, where they're out on a date. She says, "I love you," and he says, "No." He says the absolute worst wrong thing. He does love her. He just, his brain fell out of his head and he said the wrong thing. She's holding it against him. Well, he gets passed over for a job that he thought he was promised, and they go outside to Pedro Pascal and bring him in as the new sales manager. And he's trying to turn the whole office around, increase production and efficiency. Though he does it by turning most of the office into vampires. He's a vampire. He has a college past with Fran Kranz's character, but he's not holding that against him. He's just turning the whole office into vampires. And the reason he's doing that is to increase efficiency. Not to take over the world or anything, but apparently they're turning them into vampires, and they're becoming super productive model citizen, role model workers. And that's a very twisted part of it. But the movie is hilarious. It's hard to describe. It's just like the dynamic between Fran Kranz and Joey Kern and the other actors, and Pedro Pascal, who just seems like this perfect leader, but just an arrogant bastard kind of thing. It's just hilarious. I'll stop there. So that was Bloodsucking Bastards. So number 4, we have a film from 2019 called Adopt a Highway. And this one stars Ethan Hawke. And it's what I consider to be one of, if not the finest acting I've ever seen Ethan Hawke do. And what happens is, he, as a teenager, is sent to prison for possession and with the intent to distribute, I think, an ounce of pot. And he's sent to prison for 20 years, back when this was a more serious offense. Much more serious offense. And he gets out of prison, he's working a dead-end job at a restaurant, just like in the back, washing dishes, taking out the garbage. And one night, he closes up late, manager leaves, and leaves him to close the place up. And there's a storm outside, and he's taking garbage out to the dumpster, and he hears crying, like a baby crying. And he opens the dumpster, and there's a baby wrapped in a little, like a duffel bag. And it's just in the dumpster, so he climbs in, gets the baby out, and takes it back to his motel room. And he finds a note inside with the baby that says her name was Emma. As in, somebody had dumped the baby in there, and the baby's likely going to die, but her name was Emma. You don't know who dumped the baby there or why. But he starts to take care of the baby and tries to call the authorities, and then sort of chickens out, and is trying to take care of the baby for the next few days. And then eventually the authorities contact him, and he has to give the baby over to social services. But it's almost as if, he gets out of prison and he's very, the manner of speaking is very slight, very timid, and it's just Oscar-worthy acting from Ethan Hawke. But it's almost like he's surprised at how nice and understanding everyone is to him. They take the baby, they're asking him questions, they understand the situation he's in, they're going to take good care of the child. But it's just the acting, the pure emotional acting he does in this movie is just off the charts awesome. And it's where he's going to go from there. So, I will stop there. That is Adopt a Highway. Number 3, we have a film from 2016 called Come and Find Me. And this one stars Aaron Paul, Annabelle Wallis, Garrett Dillahunt is in there too, and those Zachary Knighton. Those are the only real actors I really recognize. Yet Aaron Paul and Annabelle Wallis are this couple, and it jumps. They like to play act where one's following the other home and like, who are you? Why are you following me? And then all of a sudden they start kissing and you realize it was all a ruse. They know each other and they live together. They also have flashing back to the same situation when they actually met years ago. Now they've been living together for a few years and they have their problems like anyone else, and then just one day he wakes up and she's gone. Disappeared. Gone. No explanation, no note or anything, just gone. And he files a missing persons report, nothing comes of it, and a year goes by, and he's still wondering what the hell happened to his girlfriend. And he contacts an old friend of hers who comes to visit him, doesn't know any more than he does, and is moving on soon. So he goes to work, but then comes home early, and his friend is there trashing his apartment. Obviously, like bashing holes in the wall, looking for something. He's like, oh, you came home early. And he ends up knocking him out. Wakes up, guy's gone, has no idea what's going on. And it's sort of like a scavenger hunt kind of thing, or he starts conducting his own investigation on where the hell his girlfriend went. And like, this was the last person who saw her, or he starts finding clues as to where she went and who she may have been. I'm not going to go too much into it because I would like that to be a surprise if you watch it. But it is a fascinating movie when you find out the backstory and maybe the reasons why she left, or what happened to her and how she left. And just fascinating movie. That's all I can really say without spoiling anything. It is Come and Find Me. Number 2, we have a film that was released. It's a South Korean film. It was released last year in South Korea, but it was released in North America this year, 2021. And it's called Deliver Us From You. Not to be confused with the demon possession movie from a few years ago with Eric Bana. This one stars 2 of the guys, main actors from that South Korean mob movie, New World, that I talked about before. And that is Jung Min Hwang and Jung Jae Lee. Now, they played friends in New World. And this one, they're sort of like, one's not a great guy, and one is a very bad guy. So you've got the character of In Nam, who is a contract killer. He used to work for the government or government agency, and now he is on his own, he's a killer for hire. And one of his supposed to be his last mission, he kills this, I guess, a serial killer or a guy who abducts and tortures and kills women. So he is paid to kill him. Well, it turns out that that man's brother is a character called Ray the Butcher, who is sort of like a notorious enforcer, killer who like just butchers his victims for, I don't know if it's the highest bidder, but for criminal organizations. He was his brother. So he is gunning for In Nam. And In Nam, he years ago had a relationship with a woman, and he had to break it off with her because he had to leave, because he no longer had a boss. This was his transition from government agency to hired killer. And what he didn't know was that she had a little girl. Now, she gets caught up in a scam, a real estate scam in Thailand, and her daughter gets kidnapped. She comes to find her, and she is killed. The daughter is taken and sold to some traffickers. So he tracks them down, and so he's going after his daughter. Ray the Butcher is coming after him, but Ray has to use the same means that Innam is using, like the traffickers and stuff, to catch him. And they're both very good killers, very good fighters. And so you have a lot of cool, awesome, not just cool, awesome knife fights in this movie. But it's sort of like, how many times are these two going to clash? Because they do clash several times, and who's going to come out on top? And it's just insane. The movie is awesome. And I will stop there because you got to see it. It is such a well done movie. And as I always say, I'm a big fan of South Korean cinema. And this was an excellent example. All right, number one, film from this year, the Joe Carnahan movie, the latest Joe Carnahan movie, and it's called Boss Level. And when I finally heard that this was coming out, and now, I don't know if it was going to come out in theaters, but COVID blew all that to hell, so this came out on streaming services, and I found it on Google Play. Now this is another version of Groundhog Day that they use that template kind of thing or plot device in several movies. They did it in 1201, they did it in Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. I heard that they did it in Palm Springs, the Netflix movie, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard good things about. But they do it again in Boss Level. And this one stars Frank Grillo as a guy who wakes up every day and he keeps getting killed, and he only makes it a certain way through the city before he gets killed, and like this helicopter blows his apartment all to hell, and like gets there and there's this like chick with a samurai sword, and he's trying to find out why they're constantly trying to kill him. And his ex-wife, played by Naomi Watts, works for this really bad guy played by Mel Gibson. And she works in some top secret scientific facility or something. And may know something about why he keeps replaying the day over and over again. Now he's sort of estranged from from her and her son, well, their son. He hasn't been a father to him much, and it's sort of like in Groundhog Day, where he uses the repeated days, his endless life, to become good at something, or get to know this person, and get to know this person, get to know this person. Well, at one point, he's using it repeatedly to get to know his son, as well as trying to figure out why he keeps being hunted and killed, and why he keeps waking up the same day. And the movie is just awesome. And like, yeah, it's a plot device that's been used several times, but more often than not, it's always used very, very well, in a very, very, very competent way. And Joe Carnahan is no exception. He did it, well, the movie is an exception, because the movie's exceptional, but he does an awesome job at using that plot device in an excellent manner. So, was there anyone else in there that you'd recognize? Michelle Yeoh, Will Sasso. I think that's about it. Oh, Quentin Rampage Jackson's in there too. Yeah. So, another Groundhog Day clone, but in a action comedy vein. So, all right. So I will leave it at that. That was Boss Level, and I will end it there. And I hope you enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun making it, and don't know what I'll do next, but who knows? I'll come up with something. All right. So like, subscribe, comment, suggestions, all are welcome, and I'll see you next time. Toodles.